The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today is Thursday, December 29th, 2022. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to the new year. In particular, I'm looking forward to the project that I want to bring to you in the new year. I'm going to start bringing more interviews and more conversations to you to honestly let other people make the case that I've been making for some time. Now, for some time, I've been sounding the alarm about what I believe to be a concerted effort to overthrow this government. And I want to take something into full context. I'm very grateful for the January 6th committee. I'm grateful that they at least did what they did. And in fact, the FBI having prosecuted, I'm not a fan of the FBI. Okay, because historically, I know who they are, what they've done, especially to black people. But in this particular season of insurrection, and in this season of white supremacy run amok, I'm really kind of grateful that there's some boys and women and non-gender conforming individuals at the FBI who are prosecuting and investigating these people. By the way, you all need to go check out Chaya Reichik from Libs of TikTok, because you know, it looks like there's pretty conclusive evidence that she was a part of the January 6th insurrection. But let me get back to the point before I go off on a tangent too much. I digress. I'm looking forward to bringing you conversations in the new year, interviews of professors and scholars and people who study this at an academic level. But I also want to dig deeper, and I want to get people from that can speak on the record from, well, just you'll know it when I introduce you to them, people who actually do have evidence of what's happening. These folks really are trying to overthrow America, everybody. And while me, making the case on this podcast as intensely as I do, it's cool and all, I'm looking forward to letting you hear from some of the most brilliant minds that we have today. Some top rated authors, scholars, professors, religious experts, security experts. And I want them to speak. And I'm going to do this more from an interview perspective, because I think one of the number one things that we have to do, and the way that media can be effective, I think the most effective thing that I can do is make the case. And sometimes the best way to make the case is to an appeal to experts. So we're going to start doing that in January, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. Also, I'm looking forward to utilizing the structure. I'm going to bring you a hybrid podcast, and I don't even know if we can call it a podcast in January, because I am going to be mixing the interviews into the live show, because I think it's very important. And of course, I'm going to make sure that you all who enjoy the podcast format, you'll still get the podcast format, and it would be nice and polished. We're going to, all those things. But I want to mix it into the live show, because this is a lot. You can't honestly you could just take any perspective that we cover. And if you Black life, for example, let's just talk about black people in this country for 1 second. If you honestly look at the rate that the police are killing us, 1, 2, how many white people can get away with killing us, and they're not even, or deputized police officers, right? And then 3, when violence breaks out in our communities, because we are all, economically trying to get whatever number of reasons violence breaks out in the black community, we are faced with an epidemic of policing agencies who refuse to investigate until everyone has killed everyone. Now, this is information I'm bringing to you from talking directly with pastors and parents, right? My time away from you was time I spent on the ground. if you just take a look at what's happening with the black community, and if we honestly paid attention to it at the level that it needs to be paid attention to, it's a lot. It's overwhelming. But we can't let the overwhelming nature of it stop us from attacking it one bite at a time, right? One bit at a time, one conversation at a time, one interview at a time. And in between that, we're going to laugh. I'm going to talk with DJ Exclusive. I got to call him and make sure he's doing good. He's home from the hospital. I'm going to talk with my sister from another mister, Rebecca Azor. I'm doing my best to get that suave brother Mac, get him back to talk with us at least about some of these key interviews. Like I want him to run wingman. I want him to run point with me as we talk with these professors and these scholars about what I believe to be a concerted effort against democracy that I feel is also being missed by the Congress, by the Select Committee, the January 6th Commission. I feel like while the January 6th Commission is doing a good job, I feel like they are missing the real threat, which is the white evangelical, Christian nationalist, holy culture war that is being waged so efficiently, so well funded and so well organized that they not only are able to run candidates for president, they're able to get legislation passed all across this country that attacks the LGBTQIA community. That the second thing it always does, sometimes it's the first thing they do, they attack anything that they deem to be woke, anything that they label as critical race theory. And as they weaken our schools, because they're organized well enough to attack every school board, they have representatives going to every school board meeting in this country, right? They have moms of liberty who are systematically going from school board to school board and firing the first black school board president there in, was it South Carolina? I mean, that's how organized they are. That's how well funded they are. And while I've made the case, I want to bring in some backup. And that's what we're going to start doing in January, because I think it's incumbent upon me to find the most efficient way to communicate to you, as well as the broadest audience possible, the threat that I believe that we are honestly under now, because you really have to take a step back and say, okay, so then Ben, what do we do with that information? Right. This is the thing. Like, how do you get people to come to terms with the fact that we are at the beginning stages, or we're well into a coalition's effort, a faction, I don't know the best way to describe it, but we're well into their push into turning America into their version of the Republic of Gilead. Right. So what do you do with that information when you get it? Well, you organize. Honestly, you 100% organize. And that's why a good portion of my show has been committed to being able to organize on the ground, organizing churches, because we're going to need churches in this fight, in this fight against white evangelicalism. We're going to need black churches, right? We're going to need labor unions. We're going to need all of the organizations and allies possible in this fight against this creeping fascism. Because that's what we're up against. We're up against a coalition that is honestly intent on rolling back democracy in this country. And so we're going to discuss that with some professors and some scholars. And we're going to talk to organizers. We're going to talk to the people who are actually on the ground fighting back against this, because there are organizations and individuals who are as committed to fighting against this on the ground as I am committed to broadcasting and informing people about it. So that's why I'm definitely looking forward to the new year, because I think we're going to be able to get to work in a way that we haven't been able to get to work in a long time. And it's only possible because of you, the supporter of the show. I don't know if you know who Andrew Tate is, but I imagine that you probably do, if for no other reason than what Greta Thunberg, the 19-year-old climate activist who became famous rowing across the Atlantic Ocean as a sign of protest and to bring attention to the impending climate disaster. I hope you know who Greta Thunberg is. But anyway, Andrew Tate, you may not know who he is, but if you do, it may be the result of how Greta Thunberg eviscerated him last night. And it's a pertinent conversation because of what Greta is fighting for and what it was that Andrew Tate said, but more importantly, what Andrew Tate represents. Now, Andrew Tate is a influencer. He is a, former, current MMA fighter. Apparently he's, got some fighting chops. Good. Congratulations. But he's most certainly a part of this new dude bro culture where it is a reactionary response, right? This is the context of all of our conversation, is this reactionary movement, this group of people who are so tired of the progress that women are getting in this country and in society and on this planet. I mean, honestly, these are the guys who expend an enormous amount of energy on their podcasts attacking women, not just because they're women, but because, God forbid, a woman does what she wants to with her body and she sleeps with as many men as a man sleeps with a woman, then that becomes an entire brand of podcasting that really makes a lot of people rich. I mean, there is an entire dude bro culture that is just, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's an echo chamber. It's a feedback loop of a lot of dudes who just want to complain because the women that they want don't want them. That's Andrew Tate audiences. That's who listens to Andrew Tate. So anyway, this guy attacks, he calls out Greta Thunberg and he calls her out to, with a picture of him pumping gas into, I think, a Bugatti. I'm not sure. Don't really care about cars other than I like the way the names sound, especially like when you're rapping and you say Bugatti, that flows really well. He put a picture of him pumping gas into a Bugatti and bragging about his 33 cars. First of all, if you have 33 cars, there's something wrong with you. Okay. There's just really no reason. But anyway, he's bragging about his 33 cars and the amount of emissions that they give off. He's proud that he is contributing to the destruction of our environment. So, he's so proud of it that he's leveraging his fame. He's famous. He's rich. 33 cars. So obviously you must know who he is. Everybody has to know who he, not really. No. Well, he has 33 cars and he wanted to brag about and to poke in the eye of a climate activist, the kind of emissions that he causes. And he let her know that he wanted to tell her about all 33 of his cars, give him her email address so that he could send her an inventory of the cars that he owns and how those cars cause and what level of emissions those cars give off. Greta Thunberg publicly humiliated him and rhetorically disemboweled him in front of the world to, millions upon millions of views, simply said, please forward it to smalldickenergy@getalife.com. Bravo, standing ovation. I couldn't have done better. There's brilliant. That caused enough ruckus on the internet to get all of the conservative movement panties in a bunch. Matt Walsh jumped in. Jordan Peterson jumped in. I wouldn't be surprised if Elon Musk chimed in from his burner account. But I really just want to introduce this group, though. This group of hyper misogynistic men. Right? Because, for all intents and purposes, all men are misogynistic. We just have to figure out exactly why and how and where it came from. But this is a group of men who have leaned into their misogyny. right? Their disdain for women. In fact, these are the men who, the reason they want to take us back to when America was great in their mind is because of how they feel about women and what they think these women should be able to do in society and what they should be able to do with their bodies. But in this case, little sister Greta Thunberg, she had rhetorical hands enough to shut this guy up. But here's the thing, folks. The problem is that this guy has a massive following of millions upon millions upon millions of young men who look at his life and admire it because they think he has all the women, because he has 33 cars, because he's an MMA fighter. And they look up to that because they want that kind of life. So, yeah, there's a faction of men that we have to be concerned about that are as intent on overthrowing this country as the fascists because, well, some woman had the nerve to tell them no along the way.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Yep. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. I've had to re-record a segment multiple times today, which is why the episode is late, and it's about the asymmetrical nature of this fight. And I just got to go with what I have at this point because it's already almost 4:00 and I need to get this podcast out to you. But one of the biggest challenges is the fact that the people who are organized and funded and ready to go and actually implementing this coup against the country, this attack on democracy through every single level, from the school board level to the Secretary of State positions in each and every state. They have long since gotten control of the legislatures, but they're closely approaching the constitutional convention level of control of state legislatures. I mean, that's how effective they're fighting. And the thing is in this fight, it really only takes a small portion of America to actually change the laws, right? We're living through the rule of the minority. This group of white conservative men and white evangelicals and all their multiracial accomplices, right? They do not make up the majority of Americans. But the strangest thing about this asymmetrical fight is that they don't need a large amount of Americans. They don't need the majority of Americans to believe what they believe in order for them to win. They just need control of the media, the mainstream news media, which they overwhelmingly have in the form of Fox News, CNN being purchased by a Republican billionaire, right? They have control of the mainstream media. They also need the ability to intimidate, right? They have that control. They have what they need through a couple of dollars from billionaires. Let me put it into context. When Michael Bloomberg ran for president, he dropped $1 billion on that campaign. It was nothing for him to lose that money, right? That's pocket change for him. Now, Elon Musk buying Twitter for $44 billion and the results of the crash of Tesla and the problems they're having at Tesla, like that at Twitter, that's not going to be pocket change for Elon Musk in the long run, but it was a necessary evil. It was a necessary expense. The money is on their side, but it doesn't require billions of dollars in order to control American politics. These politicians are pretty cheap, right? These media figures are pretty cheap. When you consider the vast amount of resources that conservative billionaires have at their disposal to command our media, to command our discourse window, the Overton window, right? To actually have political operatives on the ground at the school board level, bruh. Like, they're able to pull this off with a few $1 billion. And you see the commitment that these folks have. Elon Musk was willing to burn through $44 billion. It's asymmetrical because there's a large amount of money being targeted towards a very small group of people who are creating an echo chamber enough to sway elections. Now, how is this outside of the norm of American politics? Well, historically, up until this point, American politics has been within a range of an Overton window that pushed us away from fascism, slowly but surely. Pushed us away from the bigotry and the hatred and the scourge that was Jim Crow, slavery in this country. Like, we evolved away from it. But we are literally engaged in a movement that's pushing us back towards everything that we've come from. So this is a unique time in American history. Sure, it costs nothing for Boeing to be able to purchase a couple of politicians. They've been doing it for years. Right. But now Peter Thiel can not only lobby politicians, but command entire journalist staffs and the trajectory of an entire news organization. And now to the point where they're all able to command what we are able to discuss on a regular basis. What is in the acceptable discourse? Right now, it is in the acceptable discourse to call anybody you disagree with a groomer and a pedophile. This is what we're up against. And on our side of the equation, well, we've got MSNBC, I guess. I mean, in terms of like heavy hitting, politicians, okay, do we have a single politician in Washington, D.C. who is honestly pulling for progress the way Marjorie Taylor Greene is pulling us back towards the Inquisition, like Matt Gaetz? Like, do we have anything like Talking Points USA, Turning Points USA? That's because all of the money is on their side. And because it doesn't take they don't have to convince 100 million people. They don't. All they have to do is buy off a couple of politicians and donate to ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Committee, and send legislation to all 50 states. They're very efficient, they're very organized, and they're well funded. Well, what do we do with that information? Well, we work smarter, not harder. But we also do whatever it is that we have to do to get our word out to as many people as possible, right? And that key word right now is, honestly, red alert. Red alert. That's the best thing I have to, if I was Paul Revere, I would say the redcoats are coming. I don't really know how else to make it plain for those of you who have been paying attention, red alert. But for those who haven't been paying attention, well, we got to get their attention. And part of that is playing the game, the algorithm game. I mean, just full transparency. We're going to have to play the game. This doesn't mean we give in to clickbait, but this does mean that we strategically make sure. And this is more of an internal conversation, right? I'm having an internal conversation with you about how we're going to proceed in the new year, right? We're strategically going to be targeting this show, our conversations, the structure of it, the length of time, how long it lasts, how long each segment lasts, right? We're going to be targeting this show as well as any conversation that we have about this precisely as we can so that we can get it out as far as we can. But it's more than just this show, right? We're going to be sharing this knowledge and information and making sure that everyone is organizing as efficiently as we can. And that we're not only limiting ourselves to like the algorithm and to online practices, that we're connecting in community, that we're connecting on the ground level, that we're connecting on the organizing level. This is the season more than anything else where every independent media network needs to be inextricably linked to activism and organizing. And we've been doing that on this show, and we're going to start integrating that more into the day-to-day content that we put out. Because the only way we're going to be able to compete against the behemoth that is the funding that is behind this conservative machine is through organizing power. That's it. We're never going to be, not now, no time soon, be able to match them, conference for conference. big stage for big stage. Bright light for bright lights. You see how they bring out Kyle Rittenhouse to explosions and lights and fanfare, and then Ted Cruz, they bring him out. They have those conferences every single week. And it is actually and factually transforming a generation into continuing the same bigotry and hatred, just putting it with flashing lights in a new generation, in new skin. That's what they have on their side. On our side, yeah, it's cool that we have truth. I know I hate to dismiss the truth, but sometimes the truth isn't enough. No, sometimes you have to be able to strategically put that truth in front of as many people as possible. And I think we have to connect with as many people as possible. We honestly need to know that we're not alone. And that's why we're going to be focusing so much on community and making sure that this space that we're growing is a space of information, change, revolution, but also joy. Listen, that's all the time I have for today. I'm looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow, but I'm mostly looking forward to the new year. Take care, everyone.